I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for April 7, 2014. If you'd all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Tully.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Manister.
Here.
Alderman Saunders.
Here.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda from April 7, 2014. Any changes? Alderman Saunders?
I just wanted to add a topic under new business, just a discussion to put the incremental savings from going to ECDC into reserves for the next 5 years. I just wanted to add that to there, if we could have that discussion.
Okay. Okay. Is that, do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of adding that to the agenda under new business, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
You're right.
Alderman Leigh, I'm sorry.
Is Bill 5796 coming off hold?
No, not tonight.
It is still going to stay on hold?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Thank you. And second?
Second.
We have first and second to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, consideration and approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, March 3rd, 2014. Alderman Saunders.
Okay, on page 2, 2, the third paragraph, it's right before bids. Right at the beginning there, Alderwoman Saunders asked, wait a minute, I think this was, oh, no, never mind. I didn't need that change in there. I apologize. I write more than what I actually do. Okay, then under bid selection, Oak Tree Park Playground, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line from the bottom, after it reads, and the bid should be fair for everyone. Alderwoman Saunders asked, do you have to mention that there is a percentage, that the city is going to build in a percentage for change orders in the RFP? I am questioning the legality.
Can you read that again?
Okay. Alderwoman Saunders asked, do you have to mention that the city is going to build in a percentage for change orders in the RFP? I am questioning the legality. Okay, and then on page 3, in the middle of the page where you see in bold, it says the motion dies due to lack of a second. If you go down 2 lines, so it says executed by the bank and developer before coming for approval. Right after that approval, Alderwoman Saunders stated, as long as the attorney reins us in, if we stray into closed session topics, I am fine with discussing in public. And then in that same section, if you go down where it says the motion passed, if you go up 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5th line that ends in and get everything resolved, Alderwoman Saunders asked why the city needs to stay the litigation. And Kathy Schrader responded, they want us to sign off because we were a party to the original September 2011 agreement. They want the city that here we are to stand by what we said we would. And then Alderwoman Saunders, stated, we sign off and yet there is a consent judgment and exhibit that are part of the agreement and that we haven't seen, and yet we are to sign off. You can't be a party to and not have all the information. And then on page 6, the very first line, presentations were done in closed session. If you'd add, the public needed to be educated, that sentence.
I'm sorry, run that again?
The public needed to be educated. And
Where
then,
are you putting that?
right after closed session. It's still my comments, but I didn't put my name again, because if you read earlier. Then at the end of that paragraph, the very end, it says she questioned why the board didn't take action to hire another dispatcher. That's after the sports attic fire. And then, knowing there's a cost, comma, insert, Alderwoman Saunders said safety is more important, and if hiring a dispatcher is more important, then she suggested eliminating Brentwood days. Not just to eliminate it for. And then on that same page 6, if you go 1, 2, up to the third paragraph from the bottom, at the last, after this decision is not an easy one, Alderwoman Saunders commented that statistics come from the board. If you don't ask your staff to keep statistics and ask to see them, then they are not going to have them at their disposal.
Can we, excuse me, can we
Yes.
go back? You had a comment about the sports attic.
Yes.
Can you clarify for me exactly what that was supposed to say again?
Okay, on page 6, after the first paragraph, down at the end, where it says she questioned why the board didn't take action to hire another dispatcher after the sports attic fire. And then I said, knowing there's a cost is there, comma, Alderwoman Saunders stated safety is more important, and if hiring a dispatcher is more important, then she suggested eliminating Brentwood days. And then on page 8, under Bill 5839, after the sentence, it's about mid, Attorney Albrecht read Bill number 5839 by title only. Then Alderwoman Saunders stated that since they pick a plan from pre-approved plans, we gave them a reduced rate, them meaning Brentwood Forest. Alderwoman Saunders stated that since each deck in Brentwood Forest is issued an individual permit and each deck is inspected, the permit fee should be per deck, not by building. The owners own the decks, and trip charges aren't an issue, and Brentwood Forest hasn't paid permit fees in the past. And that is it.
Okay, could I actually have a motion to put these minutes on hold so that those additions could be verified and then added to the minutes?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item B, the minutes from the special meeting on March 6, 2014. Alderman Saunders.
Okay, on page 1, under personnel, Alderwoman, let's see. Okay, it was me that made the motion. We had Alderwoman Manister take back the motion. So I didn't even notice that part of it. I had made the motion, requested if it's legal. The motion was to develop a severance package if it's legal. And I requested something in writing from the attorneys stating that it's legal. Alderwoman Manister initially made the motion and then withdrew, and I made the motion. So I don't know if you want to go back and check that. And then also on the second page, after the bill 5832 is hereby passed and now becomes ordinance, Alderwoman Saunders wanted noted for the record that we just approved an agreement without seeing the consent judgment or the exhibit attached to it. And that's it.
Okay. Do you want to adopt those or put those on hold as well?
We should probably check them. I think we should probably check them.
Okay. We have a motion to put the special meeting minutes on hold as well.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, presentations and recognitions. We have one swearing-in ceremony this evening, and so I'd like to introduce our newest officer to the Brentwood City Police Department, Nick Sieverling. Is that correct, Sieverling? And Nick, if you want to come forward and... Between us. And, all right, I have to tell this story, and I won't do this to you, but whenever we're doing an oath, I have to bring up one of our former aldermen, and when he was doing this, he read the entire oath and then said, repeat it to one of the guys. So I won't do that to you.
Listen carefully.
So, Nick, if you would please raise your hand and repeat after me. I, Nick Sieverling,
I, Nick Sieverling,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Missouri
and the laws of the state of Missouri
and the ordinances of the city of Brentwood,
and the ordinances of the city of Brentwood,
that I will faithfully demean myself
that I will faithfully demean myself
in the office of police officer,
in the office of police officer,
for which I was appointed
for which I was appointed
the 24th of March, 2014.
the 24th of March, 2014.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Reception line here.
Thanks again, appreciate it.
Come again.
Nick, if you would like to introduce yourself and
A little history.
maybe, okay, Dan, why don't you,
I put the poor guy on the spot. Nick comes to us from Union Police Department. He spent 6 years in Union. So we're going outside the St. Louis area to get police officers now. We're venturing into Franklin County. But Nick has already worked the street for a couple weeks with us. He's really fitting in very well with everybody. He's got a really likable personality, and I think he's going to be a great addition to our department.
great.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thanks, Nick.
Just be careful.
Next item, we have a proclamation for our 2014 Arbor Day. I wasn't going to read this, but don't we technically have to read it for our Tree City USA, I believe? Okay. So what I'd like to do now is read our 2014 Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1972, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was the first day observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoils by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate temperatures, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood, and wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economy, vitality, and business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, where they are planted, are the source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Brentwood has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Therefore, I, Mayor Pat Kelly, do hereby proclaim April 17th, 2014 as Arbor Day in the city of Brentwood, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further urge all citizens to plant a tree to gladden the hearts and to promote the well-being of this and future generations. So if we could have a motion to adopt our 2014 Arbor Day proclamation.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And just, I was going to do this under my mayor's report, but just to touch on this real quick, I was happy to represent the city this past Friday at the regional meeting for the Tree City USA, where the local cities throughout St. Louis County were recognized for continuing their efforts in being a Tree City USA. Brentwood received our flag for the 26th year in a row. We are one of the longest active Tree City USA cities in St. Louis County. As well, the reason our men couldn't be there, and I want to thank our Public Works who went over and helped last Thursday and Friday at the city of University City with their cleanup from the tornado that went through there. We had, I'm not sure how many men over there, but I know we had our chipper, we had our bucket truck, we had a couple of dump trucks that went over and helped remove that debris, and they worked very diligently both those days to help the University City, so I think we want to thank our Public Works for that. So, and I have the flag in my office for the for 2014 Arbor Day. So, next item, we have on hold a recognition, a donation by O.B. Clark's. Well, why don't you? What was the actual donation that was made by?
It was a camera
Can you just tell us what?
that we could put in our parks or anywhere where we think that we've had vandalism, so that we can monitor
Right.
those areas better.
Okay, and so O.B. Clark's has donated that to the city. It's a infrared camera that can be, picks up motion and then goes off, and we've actually been successful in catching one vandal a few years ago that was destroying drinking fountains in one of our parks. So O.B. Clark's donated that. We wanted to recognize them for that, but they haven't been able to attend the meeting. So I wanted to make sure people knew what we were talking about. We do not have any public hearings this evening. Bids, we have one bid this evening.
Right, for an emergency purchase of a 200-gallon electric boiler at the Recreation Center. This boiler serves the need of the community center. It has been leaking, and staff have indicated that repairing the option is not an option due to the age and condition of the tank, and it continues to worsen every day. So we went out and got a number of quotes. If you refer to the bid tabulation sheet, the first quote is from the Wadinger Corporation for $26,513.24. The second one is from HI Mechanical Contractors. I can't pronounce that word, that's why I said HIM. And that's for $30,996. Vogel Heating and Cooling was for $17,811. We are requesting a 200-gallon electric boiler, and they submitted a bid for a 119-gallon electric water heater. And the last one is from American Boiler and Mechanical for $25,359. The recommendation is that the city purchase the boiler from American Boiler and Mechanical. This item went before Ways and Means, and at that time, we didn't have the last quote, which just came in on Friday. So that's the update to the discussion that was had last week.
Okay, are there any questions?
I do.
Alderman Saunders?
Will this be reimbursed if we go forward with the COP? Would that be would this expense be part of that as opposed to coming out of the reserves?
We can charge it to that line item. So I don't know that
Actually,
we would.
I don't think you could reimburse the
Yeah.
COP because you can't do something and then.
It has to be part of the greater project
Right,
when it's
right.
ongoing.
Okay, I noticed it said like the architectural fees and that we would recover through that, so I just didn't know if this was part of the construction.
This is separate. This is something that we need to, we are recommending that be taken care of immediately if the board agrees.
No, I understand that, but I mean, the architect fees, we're not recovering any of the past, you mean this is the future ones?
Future,
Okay,
right.
Okay, I thought, I misunderstood that.
Okay. Alderman Lay?
Clarification if I can, Ms. Pola. This was a request for quote, not
Right.
sealed bids.
Right.
Thus, we are in no violation by accepting the late quote response.
Right.
Thank you.
Because it's an emergency situation.
Yeah,
Right.
but just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay. Thank you.
We don't have to discard late bids on it. Anyway, we can take any bids we want. That's not a law.
If they're
Yeah.
bid and sealed, we have to limit when we open and when we will, from that point on, discount late ones coming in.
We tend to give a closing time when they all should come in by.
I know that,
Okay.
I've done this, but it's not mandatory to reject them. It's optional.
Okay. Next item, item 8, hearing of any matters of public interest upon request of any persons present. If anybody would like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Barry Williams, 9001 Pine Avenue. Good evening. Good evening. I have 2 requests for this August body tonight. One, I'm pleased to announce that I've succeeded in getting Metro to do something. It took a few years, but 8 years ago when Bi-State Development Agency opened the Shrewsbury Light Rail Line serving Brentwood, Brentwood became the only station of the 37 rail stations in their system that didn't have a public pay telephone. It just fell through the cracks. It was supposed to be in the music parking garage, and it never happened. And I know a lot of people nowadays have their own wireless phones, probably in Brentwood in particular. A lot of people do, but not everybody does. And even those who do sometimes lose them, or they get stolen, or they run out of charge. And fortunately, John Nations, the former mayor of Chesterfield, who's now the head of Bi-State, feels that it is good to have a landline phone as a backup in each of the 37 train stations. So anyway, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been trying to get a phone installed here at Brentwood, and Bola helped me at one point. I asked for her assistance, and she contacted Debbie Erickson, who works for John Nations at Metro. Anyway, the phone is in. It was installed a few months ago. This is the first public pay telephone in Brentwood now in about 2 years or 3 years. We lost our last public phones when Schnucks and Deerbergs took theirs out, and I think it was about 3 years ago. So I think it's nice to have, again, even for people who have their own wireless phones, it's nice to have this as a backup. And my first request is that could we publicize that in the newsletter, the bulletin, let residents know that the phone is there. It's near the Thai restaurant. It's on the eastern side of the station, right there at the entrance to the music parking garage, right where the bus loading dock is. And anybody can use it. And for Brentwood residents who find themselves missing their cell phone, or it's dead or whatever, that phone is available 24 hours a day now. The other request is on my street, on my block of Pine Avenue, several years ago, a utility cut was made in the pavement from the center line of the roadway north to the north curb, and it's in front of 8835 Pine Avenue. And, because Pine is one of the 6 streets in our city that boasts a county traffic signal, we tend to have a fair amount of traffic. And that includes a lot of emergency response vehicles. And what's happened over time is the asphalt that was put in there has subsided, and it's getting rough, and vehicles are getting jostled unnecessarily going over that patch, including very expensive ambulances and fire trucks. They don't need that vibration. So I wanted to put in a request to try to have a new concrete patch put in there. I don't think it's sufficient to just pour more asphalt. It tends to ooze out over time. I think that it really needs to be reconstructed with concrete like the remainder of the roadbed there at 8835 Pine.
When was that done?
I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, that long, okay.
It's been a few years, and it's been getting gradually worse. Again, the pavement
yeah.
subsides over time.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Great. With respect to the phone, Barry, we should probably do a proclamation for you is what we should do. And as many times as we've talked about that, I never realized that all the other stations had it. I didn't realize
You
it.
and I emailed on this too,
Yeah.
some years ago.
Yeah. Oh,
It's been
yeah.
a saga.
So, well, good. Thank you very much. So,
Thanks.
A yarn.
okay, we'll close. Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Karen Meyer, 8726 Pine Avenue, 40-year resident of Brentwood. I simply wish to express my total dissatisfaction with the board's vote to outsource our police dispatchers. I hope it works out.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Move on to introduction, reading, and passage of bills. 5796 will remain on hold. I would like to comment, actually, I was talking to representatives from Lutheran Family Services this afternoon, and they were very interested in when the sidewalks were going to be installed. And they've contributed towards the Hanley Industrial Court Association's portion, $5,000 in order to make this happen. Their employees, they are now, they've been expanding. They do training at the building that they've bought and purchased here in the city of Brentwood. They are renting space from Fontbonne College for some of their meetings, so their people come there for meetings, have to walk down the street, which isn't very safe because there isn't any sidewalks in that section. And they would greatly appreciate, getting the sidewalks installed for those types of situations, as well as, they're just regular employees, which is about 200, I believe, that, get out and walk and use the restaurants and those kind of things in the area. So they're very much looking forward to this project. And even, again, if we start this year, construction wouldn't be for 3 years. So we want to make sure that we get in on this grant round and get this moving forward. So we're waiting for one signature at this point.
I expect we'll probably have it at the next meeting.
Right. So, but it is something I think that'll be greatly utilized and appreciated within Hanley Industrial Court. So if I could have a motion for the first and second readings of bills number 5855, 5856, 57, 58, 59, and 60.
So moved.
And second?
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? First and second reading of first reading of bill number 5855, please.
First reading Bill Number 5855 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent sidewalk easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property, LLC.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5855, the Brentwood Litzinger Road Project, covers a bill for an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or the city administrator to approve a permanent sidewalk easement agreement for parcel 16 between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Properties, LLC. That's associated with the Brentwood Litzinger Road Project. Project includes resurfacing of Litzinger Road and a new sidewalk on the north side of Litzinger Road. That's between Brentwood Boulevard and McKnight. The Surface Transportation Program, otherwise known as the STP, grant funds 80% of the right-of-way acquisition cost, and a 20% funding is taken care of by the city of Brentwood.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5855 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent sidewalk easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Property, Brentwood Property, LLC.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Motion, please.
Motion to perfect Bill 5855 into ordinance form.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Robertson. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5855 is now ordinance number 4519.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5856, please.
First reading Bill Number 5856 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary construction easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property, LLC, West Community Credit Union, and David E. Hartley and Barbara H. Hartley.
Okay. We don't need to do a synopsis. This is, again, is easements for the Litzinger Road project, temporary construction easements. Any questions? Alderwoman Saunders?
I was just curious as to why it's so much more expensive for the temporary construction easements than it is for the permanent. I just was curious.
I
'Cause it's
don't
like-
know how much area the permanent easement was.
It's because the permanent easement isn't construction related. It's construction damage that they're worried about.
So it's kind of like a rental, or do they, with that money, will they have to, any damage they'll have to repair, or do we have to repair the damage? How does that work?
Well, it's for the inconvenience of tearing up their yard and
Right.
redoing it, right?
But we'll still put it back
We
into...
do the restoration.
Okay.
Right.
I just was curious.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5856 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into temporary construction easement agreements between the city of Brentwood and Grace Brentwood Property LLC, West Community Credit Union, and David E. Hartley and Barbara H. Hartley.
Okay. Motion, please.
Motion to perfect Bill 5856 into ordinance form.
Second.
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Layer, second by Alderman Nguyen. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Legge.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5856 is now ordinance number 4520.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5857, please.
First reading, Bill number 5857 by title only, an ordinance amending ordinance number 4496, terminating tax increment financing within the Kenilworth redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund related thereto, and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is a bit of a housekeeping measure. Bill 5857, the amended ordinance for the termination of the Kenilworth redevelopment area, otherwise known as our Brentwood Square, and the tax increment financing district. This bill amends Bill 5833, ordinance number 4496. It was adopted by our board on March 7th, 2014. The amended ordinance terminates the tax financing within the Kenilworth redevelopment area and dissolving the special allocation fund. The amendment is a precautionary measure to ensure the city is in compliance with two conflicting sections of the state statute. That's the TIF Act, and that pertains to this equitable distribution of the surplus TIF revenues. Therefore, in order to ensure the distribution of funds from the special allocation fund occurs in the most equitable manner for all taxing districts, attorneys from Gilmore Bell recommend the city of Brentwood amend the ordinance approved on March 3rd. The city will therefore be declaring EATS as surplus and will be returning those revenues to the sales tax districts in accordance with section 99.820, then applying the provisions of section 99.850. Once those EATS have been distributed, the only remaining tax increment financing revenues will be pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. As long as only pilots are distributed pursuant to section 99.850, there will be no windfall effect, and the property taxing districts will share only in the TIF revenues that are attributable to property taxes. The amendment also provides direction to city staff for the application of excess revenues received from UMB Bank, including the Transportation Development District revenues.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Saunders?
Yes, can I guess, is Mark here? Mark Grimm?
Yes.
Why did this not come to us last time when this was, when we approved this?
Yeah, we've done a number of ordinances previously terminating TIF districts, and I think that the county, as Alderman, as the synopsis stated, there's two conflicting provisions in the statute that I think previously the county hasn't really worried about. When they apply the remaining revenues, I think folks recognize here's the intent of the statute. And more recently, someone said, well, we understand that that's maybe your intent, but you know, we're going to be a little more particular about complying with the, addressing the two arguably conflicting provisions in the statute. So this way, with this amendment, it is crystal clear that property taxing districts cannot benefit by leftover sales tax revenues, in essence.
Okay, and when the trust indenture was first adopted,
Yeah.
I think 2001, was the prevailing then, though, that the property taxes would benefit from that?
Yeah,
or-
it's not an indenture. It's not addressed in the bond documents. It's a provision in the statutes. And when the statutes, the conflict came about because when TIF was originally enacted back in the 80s, it was property taxes only. And then the economic activity taxes were added later on. And so at some point, the statutes got amended to deal with declaring as surplus economic activity taxes. Anytime a city wants to declare a surplus, the statute says, well, sales taxes go back to the sales taxing districts, property taxes go back to the property taxing districts. Very logical. But the part of the statute that dealt with, well, what do you do at the end, has never been amended. And so it says anything left over at the end just goes back to the property taxing districts.
Okay.
And so if one were to read that literally, then the county, the city, any sales taxing districts would receive none of the remaining revenues, whether they're attributable to property taxes or sales taxes.
Okay.
And
it's
so it
just
really
at
has to do
it's
with-
just at the ending, because all throughout, we've been like in the
You
last
always
two,
have the-
we've
yeah, so
been
it's-
doing it to the taxing districts,
Exactly,
correct?
exactly.
Okay. Okay, and then in here, it says that we'll do it as provided in section 99.820.
Right,
Is
that's-
that what we wanted? It wasn't 99.850 that we
Yeah,
wanted?
820 is the one that says it goes proportional. So if we declare it surplus immediately before we do the termination, the sales taxes go to the sales taxing districts, the property taxes go to the property taxing districts. And then there's, so you get rid of all the sales taxes, and then only the property taxes are left
Left for those.
to do at the end.
I just knew that, this
Yeah.
one was structured, this particular deal, so that it benefited the schools
Right.
sooner than
Right.
some of the initial earlier
Yeah, but
TIFs.
so it really had nothing to do with the way it was structured, just had to do with the statutes.
How do you
and-
close it out?
Okay, and there was one other question,
when-
Bull, I didn't get. You gave me the breakdown of the 7%, but what percentage will the city get to keep?
It's multiple dollar amounts based on the percentage.
I guess the thing is if the city's going to benefit very little, I would prefer to benefit the schools. But if the city's going to benefit considerably, do you understand what I'm saying?
Well,
I'd rather
this-
make sure somebody.
Yeah, I mean, the city's gonna, there's substantial benefit because the city
There's
gets
the
a-
local option, which is the quarter sales tax. There's the capital improvement stormwater, which is 1%. There's the sales tax, which is a quarter.
Okay.
Then there's 1.50 to get our sales tax rate of 8.6125. So the city will
Okay.
be a beneficiary as well.
Okay. Do you see what I mean? If the
Yeah.
city
No,
wasn't
it's
going to get
probably-
very little and we
probably
could do it,
50%.
I would
It's probably
assume.
50% of all the sales tax dollars, at
To the
least,
city.
that go
Okay.
to the city. That's a
Okay.
pretty big number.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Second reading?
Second reading, Bill Number 5857 by title only, an ordinance amending ordinance Number 4496, terminating tax increment financing within the Kenilworth redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund related thereto, and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Okay, a motion, please?
Motion to perfect Bill 5857 into ordinance form.
Roll call. I'm sorry, second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Lee, second by Alderwoman Manister. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Manister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5857 is now ordinance number 4521.
Thank you. First reading of Bill Number 5858.
First reading, Bill Number 5858 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute a professional services agreement with CH2M Hill Engineers, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 5858, the professional services agreement for the next step in the Deer Creek flooding feasibility study. That's between Brentwood Boulevard and Hanley Road. Bill covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor of the city of Brentwood and/or our city administrator to execute a professional services agreement between our city and CH2M Hill Engineers Incorporated. That's regarding the next steps in the Deer Creek flooding feasibility study. Ordinance comes with unanimous recommendations from our city's recommendation body of the 353 Redevelopment Corporation. And also the CH2M Hill Corporation would assist the city of Brentwood with implementation of the conceptual plan for flood mitigation along Deer Creek.
Okay. Alderman Saunders.
I just wanted to thank you, Mayor, for pushing this forward. I read your notes from your coffee and that you, and then with the help of Bull, are actively pursuing this to help mitigate the flood. I just want to thank you.
Hopefully it'll work. Could have a major impact, so. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5858 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute a professional services agreement with CH2M Hill Engineers, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion, please.
I'll move for adoption, Your Honor.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderwoman Saunders. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5858 is now ordinance number 4522.
Okay. First reading bill number 5859, please.
First reading bill number 5859 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator acting on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, to enter into and execute an agreement with the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company for the city of Brentwood's employer insurance and ancillary benefits, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, Bill 5859 for the ancillary benefits. The bill covers an ordinance authorizing our mayor and our city administrator to enter into the agreement specified to execute that with the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company for life insurance, short and long-term disability policies, life, and ADD, and the optional life insurance and ancillary products offered. Our Ways and Means Committee made a recommendation to follow the recommendations from Hayes Company to switch from the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company. It was unanimous recommendation by the members present at the Ways and Means Committee meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Alderman Saunders?
What is the difference? We have the bill there, but then down below in new business, we have the discussion of the ancillary
Ways and
benefits.
Means directed me to put this as an item under new business because there were members of that committee that wanted to have the discussion on the merits of retaining the employer-paid short-term and long-term disability benefits being provided to the employees. That's why it's also on there as
And that discussion will be, that doesn't necessarily impact the using Lincoln Financial. That's separate.
It would if the board were to make a decision that one or both needed to be other than employer-paid.
It would adjust the amount that
It
we're
would, exactly.
So Alderman Kramer, how do you want to handle this?
I think if I could recall back to that particular meeting, I was okay with the recommendation by Hayes as it's bill. I don't need to have any further.
Does everybody on the committee agree with that?
Okay. Well, first of all, before we get to that part, I'd like to just ask about, within the bills here, we have, why is it that all of them are 30 hours except for short-term disability is 32 hours for a full-time employee?
We have Pam Bell Chambers with Hayes Company.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Your health insurance has to be a 30-hour minimum hours per week. The other benefits that are offered by the city can be any time frame unit that you want, whether it's 30, 32, or 40. So this was 32 hours as it's been handed down throughout the years. If this is something you would want to change, we could amend the policy, and that's an easy change.
I think we should just be consistent, Bola, perhaps. I mean, when I'm looking at these, the life and accidental dismemberment, long-term disability, they're all at 30 hours, and yet short-term disability is at 32 hours.
Does it make any?
Does that have a
I would
big-
have to go back and check the contract. If that is, it was an oversight when we picked these benefits up, so we could definitely amend that. So everything
Okay.
would be 30 hours if that's what you would like.
That's what you, do you know what I mean?
That would be fine.
I just
That
think
would
it
be
should
easy.
be consistent. I
fine.
don't know if that makes a big difference. And then also, can I ask, we offer $30,000 life, accidental and dismemberment, but then we also offer another $15,000 policy. I can see that one terminates based on retirement age or closer to that, and one goes to the age of 99. We pay for both of those for the employees?
You currently have, if I can turn to the right page here, bear with me one moment. You currently have a basic life benefit of $50,000 per full-time active employee that's paid by the city. And then the employees have the option of purchasing optional life for themselves on top of the 50, or additional insurance for their spouses and or their children.
Okay, so are these just samples of, because I'm looking at this one, the very first, and it says $30,000, and then the second one says $15,000.
I would have to see what you're looking at, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't, these are from 2007? So you have updated benefits. These are old, I think. These are all 2007. So the city currently is offering.
I'm sorry, I mean.
I'll go back.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that's
I
fine.
apologize.
Those documents appear to be dated 2007. So currently, you have $50,000 of basic life insurance that the city's provided for all active employees. I'd have to look through those documents to see exactly where they're from and what they are. You currently have Unum insurance, and we're looking at moving that over to Lincoln Financial for an overall rate decrease to the city on employer-sponsored benefits. I think the overall savings was 25% annually, if I recall correctly.
That's correct.
Nice
Correct.
ratings.
Do you know, Bola, are these policies in effect as far as like 50,000, but do they go by this at age 65, it'll be reduced, or is this at age 99?
Are you looking at the document titled Lincoln?
I'm first
Lincoln
looking at
National
samples.
Life Insurance Company?
Okay, the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company is the initial page, and then behind that are the various policies. So the first one is,
It says, it does say 30.
I'm sorry,
It does say 30.
30 hours for the
It
life,
says 30,000.
Yeah,
30,000.
But that's the old one.
that's the 2007.
Is that 2007 at the bottom right-hand
Yeah.
corner?
Yes.
Okay.
and so this
So
isn't
this
what,
is an old copy?
I would believe so, but I would have to look through the contracts. It's the first I've heard of the 30.
okay.
This was,
You currently have $50,000 with Unum for basic life.
okay, so we probably got the wrong document.
You might have an old document.
So
Okay,
we should
so
probably put it
can
on
we
hold.
bring this forward at the next, I mean, I know we want to do this before,
I don't believe you need to put it on hold. Yes, the documents that were provided are the samples,
Correct.
but the basis of this bill is based on the review by your group.
Right.
And the savings are what they will be
Right.
versus the coverages that we're offering.
That's
And the
right.
only change that we are looking at is bringing the one coverage down to the 30-hour minimum so that other groups of employees would qualify for it versus leaving that one at 32 hours. But that's the only change, and that would have to be a motion to the bill to change that.
well,
That's
I
correct.
understand that, Alderman Leahy, but the thing is, again, do I even know that the short term is at 32? Because this is the sample from January, from 7, it could already be. And how many additional employees would that be then, if you're reducing from 32 to 30?
Probably no additional employees. Most of your employees are
At the
It's the
30?
same.
right.
No, we did
Population
get into
that we-
this when we did the employee handbook. There's one group classified in the Parks Department that has a 30-hour versus a 32.
One person.
Yeah, but that's, in the handbook, notifies
Right.
that group. And because when we did the handbook, we raised this question, and that's how we got the education of how the groups fell in to work with.
Okay.
Is there an
Okay,
emergent
and then
circumstance?
as far as the short-term disability, I mean, I will note that almost all of the other communities either don't offer it, or if they do offer it, the employee pays. I'm fine at this point in time if we keep, paying it for the employees. I don't know if we want to have the conversation at some point, whether we want to grandfather that in, though, and start becoming competitive with the market. But, at this point in time, assuming that we can afford it, and that's what, we've been doing, that's fine. But I do think we need to have that conversation moving forward. The one change I would like to suggest is that currently, the employees, when they go for short-term disability, they only take, they get the 60%, but 40% they take from their sick bank. And the idea of the sick pay bank wasn't, the reason we gave them such a large number to accrue was so that they did have, it was in lieu of short-term disability. And then when we got short-term disability, that was supposed to be scaled back, according to conversations with you, Mayor Kelly, and that didn't happen, which is fine. But I think at least we should have to exhaust our sick days before going into the short-term disability, because it's not
Well, they
really.
do.
The new
They do,
employees
you
can't
have
bank
to.
them.
Okay, that's not the way I heard it
No,
at
you
a
have to use
pension
your sick
meeting.
days first.
You do have to use your sick days.
And even so, when you qualify after 30 days, you don't get
Then-
to start taking short-term disability, correct? You have to use your sick days first?
Right.
Okay. if that's the understanding. I don't think that's correct.
And the new employees can't benefit anymore.
If I can interject, that is the way your contract is written, that they do not, the insurance company will not pay your short-term disability at the same time they're paying sick days.
Julie, do you want to come up to the table?
That's not the way it works.
Well, that's the way it always was in the past.
No.
Our contract is currently written that we are not allowed to deny them the access to short-term disability. Unum determines if they qualify for short-term disability. We will not pay them more than 100% of their salary, which is why we allow them to use 40% of their sick leave. But at this time, the way the contract is written, they will not allow us to stop paying an employee just because they have a sick leave balance, which is why we blend the two, because we don't want them getting 100% plus salary. Short-term.
Right.
That's the way
So,
it's written.
but do you understand that they, when the short-term disability kicks in, then they can take 40% out of their sick bank, so they don't have to exhaust their sick bank first?
Right, so that they still have a balance if something else were to happen.
Well, I agree. I mean, but the intent of having the large sick day balance wasn't really for a retirement benefit or to have every base covered. It was for, because we didn't have short-term
Sure,
disability.
sure.
And I just think that we should look at that. I mean, you know, that otherwise,
That's why the new employees can't do that, only the older ones.
But what you find with people that have a substantial sick leave balance is that these employees have been with the city for a longer period of time, and it takes about 10 years to be able to accumulate any sizable amount of sick leave balance so that, you know, you're not hampered if you were to have a catastrophic event.
right, which I agree, Bola, but that was the reason why we did that. That large amount was there because we did not offer short-term disability. But once you offer, I understand for newer employees, but that's the idea too of, you know, you only get 10 sick days a year because you do get short-term disability. And so then you're not always having to rely on having this huge bank in order to cover a catastrophe, so.
Well, and I think it's important to say that, and again, if the board, I would just say that that discussion could be had when you're discussing the budget for next year. But the situation the city ran into, I don't think we instituted short-term disability not even maybe 8 years ago. And we had at least 4 instances where we had employees, one who had cancer, one who had ongoing health problem, well, 2 that had ongoing health problems. And by the time, over a period of time, they were losing their sick days because of chemotherapy or other treatments. So by the time they got to the point where they really couldn't work anymore, they didn't have any sick days left. So there wasn't anything to get them between that short-term and the long-term disability. So, and we had an instance where we had, again, 2 situations specifically, and I think there might have been 3, where we had employees that were giving their sick days to the other employees so that they had some kind of income until they got to that long-term disability. And so the city at that time decided, you know, it was worthwhile and a good benefit for the employees. And that's what it is. It's a benefit. You either can give it to them or not, but a benefit for the employees to be able to fill that gap with that short-term disability. You're always going to, you know, again, usually those people have those real health problems. It's not, you know, all the time that they, you know, break a leg and they can't work for a month. It's a lot of time, and especially you see it, everybody knows somebody in the situation, it's an ongoing illness that finally gets to the point where they can't work anymore.
I understand that.
And so it's just a balance of whether you want to offer that benefit. I think
I completely understand offering short-term disability.
right, but I mean, and how the city got to it. I think the short-term cost the city, I believe, $16,000 a year. You know, again, I think it's a good benefit. The other thing is a lot of our employees, you know, with certain positions, you know, it would be hard for them to have that, you know, cushion sitting in the bank, you know, for a situation like that, especially if they've been having ongoing health problems. So, again, the ultimate decision is whether you want to offer that benefit to your employees.
I understand. But what I want to ask the senior aldermen that were here when this was put in, did you have the conversation regarding the need then to keep the 120 days when you put the short-term disability in?
If I could chime in, my recollection is, and just as we discussed most recently, the idea is through attrition, the existing employees that are currently grandfathered would one by one retire, and the idea is that we'd have this benefit in place for those that are no longer able to bank their sick days going forward. And
But we changed, when it got to the board level, we had the date like at April, and then we moved it up to the date that we adopted the employee manual.
I
Even though,
understand.
so, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have second reading?
No, we have not.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5859 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator acting on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, to enter into and execute an agreement with the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company for the city of Brentwood's employee insurance and ancillary benefits and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion, please.
No, Your Honor,
I'm sorry.
I think Mrs. Saunders brought up the right question. One of the terms does need to be modified if
Oh,
you're
as
going to make
amended.
them all unified.
Well, you can make that as to amend that.
If you,
Right.
Okay. If we just amend the term so that full-time employees 30 hours for all
Yes.
policies.
Make that as a motion, please.
So I move that we
Okay.
make the requirement for full-time employee be 30 hours for all ancillary benefits.
Thank you. And second.
second, Your Honor.
Tom's.
Okay.
Somebody.
All in favor of the change, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Opposed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Now, if we get a motion to approve the bill as amended.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Robertson. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
yes,
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bill number 5859 is now ordinance number 4523.
Okay, thank you. Bill number 5860, please.
First reading, Bill Number 5860 by title only, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement with American Boiler and Mechanical and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this was the subject of an earlier discussion regarding bidding procedures. Bill 5860 covers a emergency request for a boiler electric hot water heater replacement. An ordinance authorizes the mayor and our city administrator for our city to enter into that agreement and execute with American Boiler and Mechanical Services for a 45 kilowatt, 200 gallon, 480 volt, three-phase electric hot water heater, and that amount is $25,539. Earlier, this item was not only discussed in the bid proposals, but it was discussed at Ways and Means, who authorized, I believe, a $26,500 maximum, and this falls underneath that, so the recommendation moves forward.
Okay. Alderman Leahy, sorry.
thank you, Your Honor. Question for the Parks Department. I'm not opposed to getting the boiler replaced, but in our discussions, we also had an issue about the location of the boiler as it relates to the electrical panels. Is there a way to establish this thing to be located where it wouldn't be an safety issue if it started leaking? Or is that something we should be putting into the remodeling of the rec center?
Come on.
Over Eric.
We didn't price it to be moved someplace else. We have established a process now where we're shutting it off at night and turn it back on during the day so that it's not under pressure.
That's for the current piece that we're going to rotate out.
Correct.
But part of the discussion pointed out that the current physical arrangement does put it, if it springs a leak, and jeopardizes the safety of the electrical panels. Is there a potential of being able to move it and locate it so that in case the new unit leaks 15 years down the road from here, that we don't create the same safety problem of water running onto the electrical panels?
It'd be in the same room.
It'd be in the same room. I guess we could research that, but I mean, we need to replace this.
I understand, but while we're replacing, if we can look at trying to put it in a better location that would eliminate some of the problem.
Okay. Well,
I
there's
think that
one
would
right
be
next to it
beneficial.
too, so
Okay.
they would both have to be moved.
Right. There isn't another place to put them except for in the same room.
I believe that's about the only place
Okay.
to put them because they're down there with all the compressors.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Kramer.
It's okay. A little taller.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor, I just wanted to thank staff once again. As we envisioned at our Ways and Means Committee meeting and put the maximum in place, they did take the opportunity to save us an additional approximate $1,200 and continued to get other bids, and this one was the selected bid. So thank you very much.
Great. Second reading, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
Second reading.
Okay.
Second reading, Bill number 5860 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement with American Boiler and Mechanical and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Motion, please.
Your Honor, I move for adoption.
Second. Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderman Nguyen. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Bannister? Yes. Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5860 is now ordinance number 4524.
Thank you. Next item, resolution 1005. Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, the resolution covers the topic of our existing rec center, the Brentwood Community Center certificates of participation. This resolution is determining the intent of the City of Brentwood, Missouri to reimburse itself for certain capital expenditures, engage in the services of an underwriter and a special tax counsel in connection with the proposed delivery of certificates of participation, otherwise known as COPs, as our city would be the lessee, Series 2014. This authorizes the offering for sale of such certificates of participation and acknowledging certain disclosures of the underwriter pursuant to MSRB Rule G17.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Leahy.
You've got in the resolution that this is to be the design to build arrangement versus getting an actual hard define of what we're really doing to work with. As we've worked through the last 2 months, we found that the boilers we thought were a critical item were in all the design criteria, but it really isn't, so we're treating them separately. I'm a little uncomfortable going forward with working that way without having something solidly defining what we're actually doing and having the cost and all that literally defined to work with. I know we've fought the issue for 9 years, and I'm not going to redefine the thing, but I would like a better concept of what we're really approving to get it through, instead of just, well, we'll let the architects work it through and define, and we'll keep going that way. And as long as we stay under budget, everything's fine.
Well, I think it is a little bit more narrow than that. I think the major things that we are going to, we're going to be redoing the roof. We're going to be doing the ADA upgrades. We're going to be doing the sprinkler system. We're going to upgrade the ice surface in the refrigeration system. We're going to be fixing the settling slabs and so forth. So, those major items are going to be done, and in doing so, I think those estimates came out to be about the $3 million that we're issuing the bonds for $3.5 million. So but we're not going to know those exact prices now. I mean, because you can only estimate so much. You're not going to know until you actually put it out to bid. So we will be, hiring a construction manager to work with to actually put those things out to bid. It's not going to be necessarily design build, but it's going to be the fact that we're not going to, get those firm prices until we put these things out to bid. And every year we wait, damage is getting more and the costs are going up too. And so I think it is a little bit narrower than you might anticipate. The other thing is, I think that's important, is that once we get moving on this, is to apply for a grant through the county park grants, which hopefully they'll be increasing the amounts of those awards this year with the additional $3 million that are going to be in that fund, with some type of formula that we may be able to recoup even as much as the ice rink renovations, which was $1 million alone for the refrigeration system. As we move forward. So, and then that would give us the ability to do some other things like, maybe resurface a parking lot or do some renovations to the outside of the building, those kinds of things, landscaping and that. But,
exercise.
Right. There could be discussions, but, so, I think, and do you want to add anything here?
And also, if this helps Alderman Leahy, in Section 3 of the RFP, it states that the contractor will be required to submit the drawings to the city, and that the city has to sign off on all drawings and designs before construction can begin. So we have to sign off on anything before construction.
I understand, and yes, the resolution isn't bad to work with. My concern, and I'm going to use two good examples that the city of St. Louis has had to deal with. When we brought Metrolink into the St. Louis area, they ran and sold the whole cost based on putting in Metrolink. But somewhere along in all their nice designs, they never priced to put a train on any of the tracks. When we built the Savitz Center, and they worked through the whole thing of building that, somewhere along the lines, they never even put in the main scoreboard that sits at center ice. Here we're sitting here working on trying to get the rec center and define it and know what we're doing to work it through. And 6 years ago, we had the insurance company tell us we need to seriously look at the boilers and make sure that they're upgraded, or we're going to run into an insurance problem. To find out that one's leaking, and by the way, it wasn't in all the engineering write-ups that, yeah, we need to replace boilers. I don't like the last-minute surprises, and thus I'm more cautious. I want to have a really good define what it is. When we built the fire station, we did that, if I'm not mistaken, as a design to build, to work through. We didn't have hard plants.
No, we
with
did.
it.
No, we did, yeah.
We
We did it with a construction manager, but we,
Yep.
no, the plans were completely done.
Design, bid,
Yep.
then build, and build, and then build, not design, build.
So I'm just looking for a little bit more meat to at least sink my teeth into.
I understand.
Yeah.
If you look at page 2 of the request for proposal,
Yep.
it lists the same items that the mayor
Yes, it does.
listed right a few seconds ago. So in terms of surprises, I would hope that we wouldn't find any, but when you
We found the
renovate these,
30,000 boiler.
you never know what else might come up, and we would bring that to you if, you know, out of the clear blue, something became apparent that we needed a fund to replace. So there is always an opportunity to bring that back to the board.
In addition to the GC, you'd also have the project manager and Jim and myself making sure we're going through over all of this with a fine-tooth comb. Because obviously this is the building I'm going to be sitting in every day. I'm going to make sure it's done correctly.
Okay, all right. Alderman Saunders?
Mark, can I ask you, Mark Grimm, some questions? Or, no, Jim Leahy signed this, not you, I'm sorry. Is that, I don't know who I would ask. I don't understand, I'm not that familiar with the I know it's a debt instrument. We don't have to go to the voters for a vote on this, but, so we can't go ahead and do this RFP and get a construction manager and get firm plans and then decide how the amount of the certificates of participation, and we can't get reimbursed then for those expenses?
Well,
I don't really understand.
some you can, but.
The resolution, and I really don't know anything about the project, and so with that caveat, the resolution gives the city the flexibility to reimburse itself for prior capital expenditures incurred prior to the issuance of the bonds, or in this case, the certificates of participation. And so it generally speaking, tax-exempt bond proceeds can't be used to reimburse capital expenditures that are incurred prior to the time that the bonds are issued, unless the city indicates its intent to do so. And so this resolution doesn't bind the city to do anything, merely is designed to give the city the flexibility, if it so chooses down the road, to use a portion of the bond proceeds to reimburse itself for any out-of-pocket capital expenditures associated with the project.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So this here isn't actually issuing the certificate,
No,
that an ordinance will come before us.
That would require subsequent action by the board.
But saying that these are pre-expenses that are involved in this particular construction project.
So it just gives you the option, or preserves the option to, doesn't say you have to reimburse yourself, it just says, hey, if we incur capital expenditures of the project, we're giving ourselves the flexibility to decide later on that we want to reimburse ourselves.
And then after we do this RFP and we have a better design plan, then we can actually issue the COPs. Is
Yeah,
that
so
correct?
it says down the road, if and when we issue some kind of tax exempt obligations, we're preserving the flexibility to reimburse ourselves for any costs that we've gone out of pocket for.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. The topic of the rec center is certainly has been a passionate one. And I know one of the items that we have in our city library is the canon study on the recreation center. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it cost us about $74,000. My hope is that that will be one of our reimbursed expenses. And I wanted to call attention also to those who may not have been listening closely. Back on February the 3rd of this year, we had a meeting wherein we spoke about this particular topic and possibility of issuing bonds. And of course, yours truly, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, said we had yet to take a vote on that, and everybody told me, oh, no, we have taken a vote on that, when we haven't really. So I just want to let everybody know that we are watching things closely and we're moving along as we're supposed to. Thank you for your patience, and I look forward to my vote on this bill. Thank you.
Alderman Sanders.
I have a question. When you say the 74,000, and I am familiar with the canon study, that we'll reimburse ourselves, what are we reimbursing? Like, what account are we reimbursing? I mean, to the parks? What account did that money come from? And we're issuing the COP, so we're just we're giving money back to ourselves. I mean, when you say that, what do you mean by reimburse ourselves?
It's a soft cost that the city, among other soft costs, needs to be reimbursed for expenditures from past years that we took money out of allocation from our budget. But we have yet to replace that money. And the idea all along was if we were going to issue bonds or COPs, we'd be able to pay that back.
Okay,
So
but we're paying
what line item it came from, I don't
if you
recall.
issue less COPs, is there less issuance costs, less so forth? You know what I mean? You're reimbursing yourself to an extent, but is this the Parks and Rec fund that did it come out of the general fund? What
Well,
fund
you'd have to go back and look, but again, I think if you want to have a discussion about what to be reimbursed, all you're doing is taking the money that you're issuing and putting it back in the bank, and then
Right.
if you're going to reimburse yourself out of the bond issuance for the project, then you're going to limit what you can do
With the money.
going forward, because
Right.
there's plenty more things that could be done at the
I
rec
agree.
center, like I said, landscaping, lighting on the outside,
Exercise.
right. Exercise equipment keeps being heard in the background, but
No.
so
No exercise equipment.
But and so I mean, again, you can say you want to reimburse the city, but then you're just limiting what you can do
Right,
in the project.
And
So
that's what I was
don't-
kind of trying to get at, that it just
accounting.
limits our funds
just
to
the accounting.
use.
No, it would be
It's a
it would be taking
reimbursement,
funds
and
out of the
therefore-
issuance in order and putting them back into either general fund or parks or capital improvement, wherever
But
those
something
funds
tells me
came.
we'll have enough to be able to do that, and/or
Well,
if we
right, I
want to
mean-
reallocate those funds again for something else at the rec center. we can do
Regardless,
that.
it's more money either, whether you're putting it there or it's more money in the
Right.
proceeds. Regardless, it's just more money
Right.
to the city, but it's still being done through a debt instrument.
Do you have a motion to approve Resolution 1005?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
First is Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Nguyen. Roll call, please.
Do you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, he had his hand up.
You're good, you're good.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Minister.
Yes.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Next item, accounts against the city. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a warrant list this evening, which includes a lot of pass-throughs, which is a wonderful thing, in the amount of $267,697.07, of which $150,533.21 are earmarked as pass-through funds. And my motion is for recommendation of approval of tonight's warrant list.
Do you have a second?
No.
I'm sorry, second, Your Honor.
Okay, second. Discussion, Alderman Leahy.
If I may, there are a few items I'd like to go over.
Okay.
The third, on page 1, the Career Partners International. We arranged or agreed to have this program available to all 7 of the dispatchers, but according to this, only 3 people got to effectively attend the training. I'm curious, because I raised the issue of how we were going to do the training and cover dispatching so that all 7 could attend. And I was just told that at that time, when I raised the question with the board, that it would be coordinated and worked out so that we could do it. But we only got 3 people that attended. Is there something I missed, or did the rest of them just decide they did not wish to take up on the benefit?
It was offered to all 7, and I believe that, Dan, do you want to address why they all didn't have a chance to participate?
That's exactly it, Andy, is that it was offered to all 7 and only 3 wanted to go through it.
Okay.
The other 4 had no interest.
All right.
And I will add that the 3 that did attend it really appreciated the offer and got a lot out of it.
Second issue, if I can keep you up, Chief, to work with, is the Gulf State distributors. We're replacing 9 of the fire rifles, patrol rifles. Can you give me a history? What's the age of the rifles that are being rotated out, or are these?
They're over 5 years old. They're ready for recycling. The ones that we are getting, actually we already have them. They're a vast improvement over what we have. They have an attachment on there that you can put a flashlight on there, which is a real safety item. So they're much nicer models than what we have.
Okay.
And they were in the budget too, correct?
Right,
Those
we
were in the
budgeted
budget.
this year for that.
All right. Thank you, sir. Bola, if I may go to page 2. The Planning Design Studio. The first column is 3943. I'm sorry, that's 3,900,000. I'm sorry. I read it wrong when I was looking at it, because I was going to go, how could we have spent more than we budgeted, but I had them. So that one's okay. Those are the only 3 questions I had.
I do have a question
Alderman.
for Bola. Bola, can you tell us about the demolition of the former executive walk apartments, what the total costs came out to be?
That total cost is 133.
The whole project?
600. The total cost to date is the 138,084.34 cents. It's also listed on there.
I mean, I see the 133. I just want to make sure that is the
Yeah.
actual.
That's how much is reflected in this invoice.
Right.
that's
There was a
reserved.
previous invoice that I believe it was the last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago for Pride Master as well. That was 100,000. So that brings us up to 233,600
Okay.
for the Pride Master work. There will be another $900 bill maybe.
Okay.
But I mean, we're substantially under
Yeah.
what our original
That's what I
estimate
thought. That's
was-
what I wanted to
was-
confirm.
yeah,
Thank you.
We're way under.
That's great. That's great.
Alderman Kramer.
If I could, Bola, on the career training workshop that we offered for the dispatchers, does the amount that we've paid allow us to go, if any of them change their mind that chose not to in the beginning, to go back, or we'd have to reallocate additional funds?
We'd have to.
Okay, that's a shame. Okay. Thank you.
One more comment on all the MSD work. That's 100% reimbursed to the city from MSD.
Right.
So out of pocket, that'll be zero to the city.
Yeah,
I
I wanted to know both parts of it.
Right, right.
Could we, is it possible with that, I mean, that has to be closed out by a certain time, is that right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they would do this, but I know a concern that's brought to my attention is the fact that when they're doing a lot of the filling part of it, they're doing it during a lot of this really cold weather and using wet material or, well, frozen material. So we could have a lot more settling.
We're working on that right now.
Okay, all right, that's fine, okay, great. Okay, we had a first and second to approve the warrant list as submitted. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robinson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item, reports of committee and department heads. Under the mayor's report, I already touched on thanking Public Works, and I didn't even see Jim here when I said that. I hope he heard it, for their efforts helping University City. I do have a couple of appointments this evening. First one is Clint Lewis, a resident of Ward 1, lives on Pine Avenue. I'd like to make the recommendation to appoint him to one of the vacant seats of P&Z. If I could have a motion for that appointment.
Make a motion for the appointment.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robinson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Passed.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Question if I.
Point
may,
of
for
order, you
clarification.
can't pass, though. There's no
Yep.
real pass in Robert's Rules of Orders.
There's a question on the floor. Mr. Lewis would be replacing which member of P and Z?
Actually, I would go with the first vacancy, which would be Leroy Russo.
Okay, because I was trying to balance, is the representation on P and Z still equal across all the wards? I'm not thinking that it is if you're doing it in that order.
I haven't looked at it that way. If you'd like to, we still have one vacant seat. If you can find somebody at Ward 3 that would like to serve, be more than happy to make that appointment.
Okay. I will vote in the affirmative for the appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Saunders, I didn't catch your vote either.
Oh, yeah, well, did you get Alderman Manistar? Oh, okay, I didn't know. Yes, I'm fine with this appointment, although, again, the wards, I know David Dimmitt is on there, Ward 1, Plufka is on Ward 1, so this is, again, another Ward 1 on P and Z, and I think we talked in the future, too, that maybe if we could start getting resumes or something, because we're just approving. I mean, Clint, I know, has been very involved, and he's been coming to meetings, so I feel good about having Clint on it, but, two, being newer, I'm not sure how you do the representation on P and Z, if it is by ward.
Well, I mean, we've in the past, we've tried to do that when we can, but again, you know, trying to find volunteers that are willing to do it, make that commitment, you know, it's difficult. I mean, it's hard to find people that are willing to give up that time and serve the community. We've advertised, had people, you know, we have it on our website that if they're interested to send something to the city. I don't know that we've received any.
Not recently.
You know, right. So, you know, and a lot of times it's when, you know, either people approach me or they have sent me letters in the past that if something became vacant that they would be interested in doing it. So. Again, that's my opinion. I'm not really as concerned about balancing out from the wards, but if you can do it, that's great. But I would rather make sure that the committees are filled, so we have more input.
Can you tell me the breakdown currently, though, of P
I'd have to
and
look
Z?
at it.
We can provide that to you.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it.
I can tell you right off the top of my head.
And I'd like to encourage Steve Lockmuller to maybe consider planning and zoning.
Anthony?
And I can't remember, are those paid positions?
I think they get $100 a meeting. Right.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, I think it is. So, okay. I have two other appointments, and one may come to a surprise to a lot of people because we've talked a little bit about this, but well, I just be frank or say it first, and then I'll give my rationale for it. But I'd like to make the recommendation to appoint Dan Fitzgerald as a full-time police chief for the city of Brentwood. We talked about going through a process, and this is an appointment of the mayor for that position. And the more I thought about it, I didn't see any reason to do that when I thought that we had a good candidate here. I've always believed in promoting from within, and I think Dan will do an outstanding job and deserves the opportunity to serve as our police chief. So I would entertain a motion to have Dan Fitzgerald serve as a Brentwood police chief.
I'll make that motion.
You second? Yeah, okay, I'll second his.
Okay, and any questions?
What will we do as far as the assistant chief? How are we going to
I have
handle
a second
this?
motion that I would like to bring up.
Okay.
Okay, but we got to do this one first.
Can we hear
I have a
that
second
in-
recommendation. Okay.
Can we hear them together, though, just so we kind of, I mean,
Well, again, I don't think that should have bearing on this vote. Well, we have a motion on the table, so. Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
No.
Alderman Kramer?
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Didn't really discuss it, but.
Your Honor, I think he's a fine gentleman, but I think it warrants more discussion, so my vote is no.
Alderman Tui?
I'm going to agree with Alderman Kramer and say no. Warrants more discussion.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
no, I think it warrants more discussion. Yeah. I mean, I think you'd be a great candidate, and we should. I just don't think it should be thrown out at the last minute. So it's nothing against you, Dan, I just think it needs to be discussed, so.
Okay. Then I will drop my second suggestion. Okay. Public Safety Committee, anything further to report?
Just that I met with the library, because I work with them. Well, yeah. Public safety is, no, that's another one. Okay, public safety, no report. I'll wait till I get to the library. Do you have something to say there?
Okay, thank you. Works Committee?
No report, Your Honor.
Director of Planning?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Your Honor. Next meeting comes up third Wednesday of April, 5:30 here in Chambers.
Alderman Saunders?
Can I make a comment being on Ways and Means, or is it just the chairman's?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We're having difficulty getting the code of conduct moved out of Ways and Means. And so for the next meeting, so that we're prepared ahead of time, I would like to suggest breaking that down into 4 sections, possibly 3 sections, but that we do it as code of conduct, code of ethics. Now, a lot of times ethics is considered part of conduct. I'm fine if you put those 2 together. Flow of information and sunshine law, closed session violations. You know, Alderman Leahy had brought that up as a separate ordinance, but I think it would be better, instead of tackling it as a whole, since everyone's passionate about all the different components of it, if we would break it down into 4 sections and just try to, like initially the public wanted us to address conduct first, if we could get that and bring that forward and perhaps move forward in that direction. It's just a suggestion because we seem to have difficulty, and we've got 4 or 5 different versions of it, and we're all passionate about our own version, so I just wanted to make that suggestion.
Okay. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator?
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner? Not present. Library?
Yeah, I met with the library board the other night, and they're really concerned about moving in the future. Libraries are changing, books are kind of getting phased out, all new technology coming in, and one of their concerns is they want to have a good rapport with the Board of Aldermen. And I said, well, one of the things you can do is start giving, just not a report to me, but give it to everybody, so everybody in the board sees what you're doing. So I think some of you are going to start finding minutes from the library to all of you in your box. Okay. And other things that they're doing, I hope so. And this may help. They really want to get a better rapport with us. And so that was good news.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Municipal League, nothing to report. Historical Society, anything, Lee?
Now let's Fitzgerald has something.
Okay.
He's going no. So.
Okay. We will have closed meeting tonight for personnel matter and contract negotiations. Unfinished business, audit discussion, audit committee discussion.
Oh, boy. Can we take?
We didn't really get a chance to advance this in Ways and Means, so I don't think there's anything to add at this time.
Okay. And I think we already did the ancillary benefits, or I'm sorry, any other unfinished business?
Your Honor, I'd just like to say, and I didn't put my hand up quickly enough before the vote came. This was not a vote against Dan Fitzgerald. This was a vote for a process that we need to do.
That's right.
That's
Right.
all I'm saying about that.
Right.
And I agree with that.
He may well end up being the police chief. And the fire chief. 2 heads, you know, he's got room, right? So, you know.
Well, and again, I mean, that's fine, and I appreciate that, but I really feel that, again, I don't want to put people through a whole process and interview people and those kinds of things when I feel as mayor that we have a candidate here that I'm going to recommend. And so, I think we all know Dan and his abilities, and it will be my recommendation at this point. So, Alderman Harper.
Yeah. Just my recollection is when we hired the fire chief, there wasn't a process and it was an appointment, so I don't see why this was any different.
Okay.
And for me, it was just really just time to wrap our head around it. I mean, even if the decision comes that we don't want to go through the process, it's just, you know what I mean? It's a big decision, and so that we can wrap our head around it, if that's okay. You know what I mean? And maybe our group decision will be that we don't want to go through that entire process.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You
No,
done?
no,
Okay.
I'm finished.
One of the reasons I voted for Fitzgerald was that I think he does such a good job with people. And I think today's society, the police need to be in very good connection with the people. And I've always found Dan to be very personable. Not only does he know what he's doing, and then also the reports that he makes to public safety are really, really good, and he has a lot of depth to them. So I thought, well, we can't do, Paul, I'm sorry, Kevin, I moved your thing there. That these things are important to keep within. I like to hire within if you can. I think it makes the people feel better, the city better, and all. So in this case, I agree with you, Mary. We got somebody who can do it, and I'm not going to be around here much longer, but I think he can do it way past me.
Right. And again, just as a clarification, so the board doesn't think I was trying to spring something on them as well. Again, this is a decision, an appointment that I recommend and still will recommend again. Know me, I don't go around and ask people for their votes and try to gather things before before meetings. The only people I talked to about this was today, and it was Alderman Nguyen, because he's head of public safety, in case he had some major concerns. And about 10 minutes before this meeting, I talked to the city administrator and told her my intention as well. So again, that's my recommendation. It's something I think is in the best interest of the community, and that Dan would do a great job. So you know, if we want to discuss that at some other point, that'd be fine. But I would still make that recommendation again right now, to tell you the truth. So, okay.
I just wanted to, you know, too, being new to the board, though, and never knowing how any of these processes are done. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing for like a P&Z board, but, you know, a position that's a department head. So, you know, just, I apologize for my trepidation. I'm just, you know what I mean? I didn't know whether you're supposed to look at all different kinds of things or what the process is. So I just wanted to qualify that.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I believe Alderwoman Saunders had one more item.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for me. Well, I didn't know if the community center's on there too, if that was a discussion.
Well, I think we already had that.
Okay. Yes, I wanted to make a motion that we put the incremental savings from ECDC into the reserves for at least like the next 5 years. This was actually brought up at my Ward 1 meeting by Steve Lockmuller, and I thought it was an excellent idea. You know, we've got our budget, and we're operating fine within our budget, and so now just because these funds become available, I don't want to fall into a situation where we'll spend it. But also, too, in the event that we find, like ECDC, maybe there's some shortcomings that we like, and we don't want wait for the whole group to get on board. When I was over there looking at their software, there's one software program where the cars themselves, where Webster Groves can get in and take themselves out of commission, and it just helps with the process. And I said, well, how come Webster Groves has that and not the rest? And the woman, she's been there the longest, I think, the dispatcher said, oh, Webster Groves always has to have all the bells and whistles first. I don't know whether they purchased it or ECDC supplied it, but if it's something that we feel like would be helpful to our men and we want it sooner than maybe it can be provided to everyone, or it's just something that we think would be an added benefit, it would be nice to have the money there so that we could purchase it right away, you know, for their cars. Like I said, I wish I could tell you the exact software, but she could, and only Webster Groves has it in their car, and it helps when they have to take a car out of commission and so forth. But I just think that now we're going to be saving all of that money, and it should go to the reserves, and we shouldn't touch it. We shouldn't spend it just because now it's available. So I would like to make that motion.
Alderman Lee?
Question, if I may.
Well, do we have a second?
Oh.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion. Alderman Lee?
Thank you. When you talk about quote-unquote savings, are you then going to use the next 5 fiscal years and throw in a $600,000 cost for dispatching that isn't really there and say, yes, I need to put that line item so that at the end of the year it's not spent, so that you put it back into the reserves at that time? Or are you just saying, I'm going to take $600,000 and throw it straight to the reserves at the beginning of the fiscal year?
No, what I'm saying is I would ask Gina to get, I mean, it doesn't have to be to the penny exact, but basically what we would have been spending for dispatch. You can factor in increases through the years and what we're paying to ECDC. And that difference between there would go to the reserves. And we would still operate within the confines of the revenues that we have and not use that money. Do you have any thoughts on that at all, Gene? I don't mean to put you on the spot because this is the first year
Let's
hearing.
discuss it here first.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now, arrangement that we already have in the budget is that we put in the reserves and you have this progressional build of the reserves. Would this money be in addition to that progressional build, or would that help you meet the progressional build of your reserves?
The percentage.
I would say it would be in addition to it, because actually the reserve amount to me is very low. It's extremely low for what we had as our minimum, and I think it's 10% that we had for the minimum, and the goal was 15 or 17%. And I think that we should relook at that fund balance policy. I think it was, the theory, I didn't want to go below a minimum of 25%. It was a line that I drew in the sand, but I think that we should revisit that, and I think Alderman Tui had expressed some interest in maybe increasing that a little bit at least. But again, it's, unless, I'm just saying, let's put it in reserves. Now, if we can demonstrate a definite project that all of a sudden we need those funds, it's not like it's not touchable, but why spend it? Why all of a sudden just put it in the general fund and then it slowly seeps out?
Well, I think first of all, there isn't anything to say that just because it's there, it's going to be spent.
Correct.
And I think, the things would, again, that would be straight out of general revenue. And so, if you're, the more you restrict funds, the more the less things you're able to do. And so, I don't know why you would. It's kind of like going back to this reimbursement issue. You're just setting that money aside and saying that you're not going to be able to pay more streets or do some other things that you would do with those general revenue funds. So. We already have a policy in place in getting us to our reserves limits, our recommendations, percentages, and I don't know why you would want to restrict what else the city could do with those funds, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I just found the rainy day in the past, we've spent more, we've had excessive expenditures. If you looked back in the past of all the entertainment and Fenton Florist and so forth, that money does get spent when it's available, and so I just think that it would be a good idea to save more, and especially, too, I would like to revisit our fund balance policy.
Do you have your hand up?
Okay. Alderman
Kramer. Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to, first of all, comment that Alderwoman Saunders, the idea is an admirable one, and I think it's always good to try and entertain questions about what to do with the monies that we're going to have. In the meantime, we do have a budget process. We've got a transition, which is still yet to come. We've got modeled funds that are coming from the 9/11 Commission as a grant. We've got some monies that are going to be shifting a little bit as we make this transition. Believe it or not, it's going to happen really quickly that we start with our budget process, and I don't like to think about that because nobody has fun doing it, but we'll be there soon, and we can entertain that question and some others at that time. I personally don't. I learned long ago from our mayor and other mayors before that confining future boards to decisions over an extended number of years and something like this perhaps is not the wisest choice. And once again, I'm willing to go through the budget process and take it up then, and along with the context of our other transition pieces, and see where the pieces are at that point. So I like your idea. The timing of it right now to make that commitment at this juncture to earmark it and lock it up, I think is perhaps premature.
Any board can overturn it, though. You guys, change ordinances. Any decision can be changed. It's not like it's locked in concrete or anything.
I'm just gonna add to you, I agree. I don't like the idea of making a budget decision that affects a number as a whole here. Doing it as a vacuum issue and kind of shooting from the hip. It can be brought up.
Especially initially in the fact that if the ECDC isn't meeting certain requirements, we have that nest egg there. Maybe even a couple of years, but it would be a good benefit to have it there.
I think you brought up during the budget process. I just think right now is premature.
But under that scenario, then, what would, under our reserve policy, would have to be some type of emergency they'd be using those funds for.
Well, I mean, this could be a different reserve line. Do you know what I mean? So it was
Okay.
discussion. I mean, Bola, I would entertain your thoughts on the idea.
Clearly, it's an idea. I think that unless you all want to make a decision tonight, it's something that we can definitely explore further, and it could be talked about at Ways and Means during the budget process, because we continue to save money. But whatever the board decides, I think it's a good idea. Obviously, if there are savings, which we've said there will be, those funds should go to the reserve. My expectation is that departments wouldn't necessarily bump their expenditure line items so that they benefit from this savings one here and then it goes up the other place. But we will clearly see more funds going into the fund balance, but it's definitely something to think about. So I think it's a great suggestion.
Yep.
I'll withdraw my second then.
Yeah, and I'll withdraw my first so
Yeah.
that we can have a little more conversation about it at Ways and Means.
Okay. We have a motion to go into executive.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, we have one more.
All right. New business.
New business item. For those who may or may not be aware, in the corner of the city of Brentwood lies Ward 4, the Brentwood Forest location. And we are right next to Richmond Heights that has given us notice of an April 17th Planning and Zoning meeting at Richmond Heights Center at 7 o'clock that night, as they'll be entertaining for, I think, the third time in about 10 years. The proposal by the folks who want to have the Manhasset Village apartments restarted again. And once again, Your Honor, we do understand it is not condos for sale, it is apartments for rent. And that will be, once again, 7 o'clock the 17th over at Richmond Heights City Hall, if you'd like to find out more.
Thank you.
Alderman Lee?
New business still, right?
Yes.
Ward 3 meeting for the month of April will be Tuesday night, the 28th of April, 7 o'clock up here at the chamber, and all are invited. Thank you, Your Honor.
Alderman Sanders?
And my meeting tomorrow night is canceled, but Alderman Leahy has graciously allowed me to join his Ward 3 meeting at the end of the night. So everyone's invited, and Ward 1 residents will be meeting, co-hosting Ward 1 and 3 meeting.
Okay.
Mayor Keller?
Yes.
Would you like to entertain public comments now or when
that's
we
right.
come back?
If anybody would like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Maureen, aren't you going to talk about your grandbaby?
Thank you, then.
Karen Smith, I'm on Harrison. Regarding the excess revenues that might be in our budget with the move to ECDC, I do think, having the opportunity and a process for you all to discuss that in the future is beneficial. I think making a decision tonight, I understand why you wouldn't want to do that, and I think it's prudent not to. But I would encourage you to think about increasing that, our reserve fund. I think the most recent storm in U City is a perfect example. We've got our revenue source is pretty much right along Eager Road, and a pretty strong storm coming down the Highway 40 corridor could wipe out Eager, the businesses along Eager Road. So I do think we just need to be aware of that. And I think those bad storms and heavy winds that do that kind of damage are probably only going to increase with all the climate changes that are going on. So again, encourage you to continue that discussion. And I often hear this about the fact that the current board can't lock future boards. But I think we really do that all the time when we do these like long-term agreements like the Meridian. That locked us into an arrangement where we're still paying for that today. And also with your budget process, I think you identified that some of the discussions related to how we would use those funds would be most appropriately discussed at the budget process. I hope it actually occurs. It's been unclear to me in the past when I've attended the budget meetings at Ways and Means. One year you want to have each discussion, the next year you say, no, we need to do this at the board level. So it's really, really hard for me to follow kind of how you all want that budget process to work. Some years you've told aldermen it needs to be discussed at the Ways and Means. Other years you say, wait, take that to the Board of Aldermen. Then next year it's, no, you need to talk to BOLA. So it would be helpful to understand how you would like that budget process to work. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Now, if I have a motion to go into executive session.
I just have one question too.
Alderman Saunders.
BOLA 2 at Ways and Means, we had talked last year about maybe doing more of a strategic planning process instead of just a one-day or a one-hour workshop, and kind of getting more involved with the budget early on as far as goals and that for the city. You had a good strategy to
Right,
attack that.
I can bring that up for discussion at Ways and Means the next
That would be
meeting.
great.
I'll add that to the list.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion to go into executive session.
In a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yeah.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Saunders?
No.
Okay. And we will not come back here to, well, no, I'm not going to say that. We will come back here to adjourn the regular session.
At some point in time in the future.